अपना घर हो, अपना आंगन हो, इस ख्वाब में हर कोई जीता है। इंसान के दिल की ये चाहत है कि एक घर का सपना कभी ना छूटे। To have one's own home, one's own courtyard, this dream lives in every heart. It's a longing that never fades, to never lose the dream of a home. With this heartfelt notion in mind, the Supreme Court of India, led by Justice BR Gavai, recently delivered a significant judgment on the rights of citizens and the restrictions on executive power in cases involving demolitions of private property. This decision sets new guidelines for preserving the rule of law, ensuring accountability, and upholding the right to shelter in India. Here are the 5 key highlights of the judgment. In its judgment, the court set out detailed guidelines and procedural safeguards for any demolition that is to be carried out. Authorities must provide a minimum 15-day notice with a clear explanation for the proposed demolition, giving the property owner 15 days' time to respond. After the response, if the authority passes the final order for demolition, another 15 days will be given to challenge the final order in the court. Property owners have the right to present the case and justify why the demolition should not proceed. This includes the opportunity to provide evidence and request alternative solutions. The reasons and legal grounds for demolition must be clearly stated, and the entire process should be transparent and well documented, including the use of witnesses and publication on public portals. The judgment reiterates the rule of law, a core principle that ensures that all government actions are conducted transparently and according to established laws. Justice Gavai underscored that no person should be deprived of property or dignity without following due process. And he said, and I quote, "It has been held that the state government must act impartially and carry out its legal obligations to safeguard the life, health, and well-being of Chakmas residing in the state without being inhibited by local politics." In a democracy, the 3 branches of government, executive, legislature, and judiciary, must respect each other's functions and boundaries. Justice Gavai stressed that actions like demolition orders, which are like punishments, fall within the judiciary's domain, and that any executive action that replaces judicial decisions risks weakening the integrity of India's democratic structure. And I quote, "The executive cannot replace the judiciary in performing its core functions. The executive cannot become a judge and decide that a person accused is guilty and therefore punish him by demolishing his residential, commercial property or properties." By requiring a judicial review before any demolition is undertaken as a punitive measure, the judgment ensures that the executive does not overstep its authority. This principle protects citizens from being subjected to penalties without a fair trial and judicial involvement. The court also highlighted that if these steps are not followed, officials could have to pay out of their own pockets, ensuring that demolitions are not misused as a form of extrajudicial punishment. Justice Gavai underscored that government officials are entrusted with the responsibility of protecting citizens' rights, acting as trustees of public interest. This means that their actions must not only be lawful but also uphold public trust. The court reiterated that the principle of public accountability applies rigorously to all public officers, and they are responsible not just for acting within legal boundaries but also avoiding misuse of power. BR Gavai said, and I quote, "It has been held that every officer in the hierarchy of the state, by virtue of his being public officer or public servant, is accountable for his decisions to the public as well as to the state. We are of the view that in such matters, where the executive illegally demolishes house, the public officials who take the law in their hands should be made accountable for such high-handed actions." The court acknowledged that the right to shelter is not just a legal entitlement, but an essential part of human dignity. Justice Gavai emphasized that every individual and family has the right to stability and security through housing, which should not be threatened by punitive actions, such as demolitions, merely because someone in the household is accused of a crime. BR Gavai said, and I quote, "There is another angle to this problem. It is not only the accused who lives in such property or owns such property. If his spouse, children, parents live in the same house or co-own the same property, can they be penalized by demolishing the property without them even being involved in any crime, only on the basis of them being related to an alleged accused person? What is their mistake if their relative is arrayed as an accused in some complaint or FIR? In a sense, this judgment enshrines vital protections for citizens, particularly for their right to housing and protection from arbitrary government action. BR Gavai said, and I quote, "There can be no doubt with the principle that no one is above the law of the land, that everybody is equal before the law. This decision is a clear reminder that as a democratic nation, India must ensure that each person's rights are respected and government power is exercised with utmost responsibility and fairness."